There are just 10 days left until NFL season, and I need to max out Best Ball Mania 4. My name is Chris Spags. I know ball is evidenced by me holding a football right here on a live stream. I am already in a draft room for Underdog Fantasy's Best Ball Mania 4. Of course, $3 million to first place. This is draft number 137 for me on the books today. I know there's a big stream going on right now, the ADP chasing guys doing a draft. So if you are here with me live, I appreciate you. If you're watching after the fact, I appreciate you just as much. But it is time to draft some teams, and Lord knows I am stuck drafting 5 teams a week, or 5 streams a week rather, until this season starts. So let's get it. I'm in the very non-influential 10 hole in this one, so I will not be getting another Justin Jefferson share. You can see a few names I know here. Case of the Mondays, I don't think is in chat, but I do know the name. Short Gamer, of course, one of our regulars. We will see what these guys do here. We will see if I can get some fun rooms like I got on DraftKings this weekend, guys. I will tell you, I'll tell you a tale of Spags drafting late at night, 10 p.m. on the East Coast on Saturday. I think same thing on Friday too. Drafted some teams that I'm honestly afraid to even post a screenshot of on Twitter because of how good those teams are, how strong those teams are, and honestly, how bad a couple of teams are drafting in those rooms. So we shall see. House Mix Play in the room with me. Which one are you, House Mix Play? I don't know your username, but I will give you the shout out, and we can track how House Mix Play does as well with me on the stream here. I am going to go with a Bijan Robinson share. I'm a little bit under the field on him right now. I was looking through the Best Ball Hub on fantasylife.com. I'll be doing a stream with them tomorrow with my old pal Ian Harditz. So I got to use the tools that I've talked about here, the best free tool out there. And again, I say that as somebody who's not paid by Fantasy Life. I do obviously support Pete and his endeavors over there. But the Best Ball Hub is a great tool. And I'm at 6% Bijan Robinson. I've got him in largely at discounts like you're seeing me get him in the 10 hole here. So I do like the exposure I have to Bijan relative to ADPs. But certainly would like to get to 8% Bijan overall, as he and Nick Chubb, as I've mentioned on the stream, the only 2 early running backs I can really stomach overall. And we can see House Mix Play is actually a mean in the 2 holes. So we will see. He takes one of the running backs as well in the first round, Christian McCaffrey, and we'll see if he's a little running back piggy or if he's going to go for some wide receivers for himself here. Well, let's see what I'll do. I'm actually down. I think if Nick Chubb falls to me, might already be willing to go to 2 running backs to start. 2 of the guys I believe in, again, Bijan and Nick Chubb in this range, I think look pretty good, but would be happy to get a Amon-Ra as well. Amon-Ra goes. And I don't think I will reach for Jalen Waddle here. I feel like I've got enough Jalen Waddle at this point, but if I'm going to make a bet on a bimodal RB build, I think going Bijan and Nick Chubb makes sense. Of course, I do have to play the gift for myself, though. I am, in fact, a running back piggy. I am ashamed. Snout, snout, snout. Look at me. Oink, oink. I'm a pig. Drafted 2 running backs here in the first 2 rounds. All right. Already have enough chase. That's why our guy House Mix Play took a little share of CMC for himself in the 2 hole. That is fair. I am so under on Jamar Chase that I'm envious of that take, but Jamar Chase is going to be a guy I look like it ends up with about 4%. Unless I get a ton of 2 spots in these final 10 drafts or so for me on Underdog, but definitely happy for you to have the luxury to be able to take CMC in the 2 hole. A kid gets off the bus to her father listening to Uncle Spags. Love to hear it. Hey, shout out to little Ross Jr. there. I don't know your daughter's name, Ross. Probably for the best, I would say, for everybody involved. But shout out to Ross. Shout out to all the dads out there. I have to go pick up my child in 2 hours or so, 2.5 hours. So I'm getting in a good draft while I can. And then there'll be some other streams coming up this afternoon as well. I think Pete said he's doing a stream with Liam. So we're going to do 1 draft today. I actually don't know how to pace out my final entries because we do have to do 3 Spag Stacks drafts on Friday. Have 3 more teams left on the wheel that I have to cover there. Have to do a stream with Pete tomorrow. We're going head-to-head on his channel. We'll then follow it up probably with a doubleheader. So that accounts for about 5 of my drafts right there, maybe 6. So definitely trying to figure out how to get these last ones in. And I was thinking, because I'm doing the Fantasy Live stream tomorrow, I didn't want to do something unprofessional, but we are going to do the Smoke 'em Out stream. The Hot Box stream is what I'm going to call it, because I'm going to spark one up in this room, and we are going to really go after it, I think, one of these days this week. So just watch every stream, because I'm not going to promote it on the thumbnail. You're going to have to know by showing up here how red my eyes are, how lacking thought that I usually would give so pristinely. That's how you'll be able to know. Shout out our guy Tyler here. Shout out to the sperm donors picking up their mini-me's. Yes, all the sperm donors out there. Tyler's donating a lot of sperm and not creating any children yet. I'm sure Tyler really lamenting that one for himself. All the kids out there, if you are somebody who's one of the college kids listening to Splash Play, live that dual income, no kid life if you can for a little bit. Don't just pop one out and move to the suburbs, because then you end up like me, getting your main joy from holding a football while drafting teams on stream. Room seems like it's not doing anything too crazy so far. Again, BBM rooms at this point, I think if you're going during daytime, you're not going to find a lot of crazy reaches, not a lot of crazy picks. Debo at 25, I guess teetering on crazy. So maybe we'll get a little bit of value on the way back, but nothing too insane here. If you are going to see anything insane, I do think it'll be late night drafts where you're getting a mix of both casuals and alcohol. That's where things tend to really sing. Yeah. La, la, la. All the travel money you get, all the fun you get, all the things you can buy. But do you have somebody who likes watching Bluey with you? No, you don't have that. You have somebody who'll parrot back words that you say? No. So you're really missing out, let alone the tens of thousands of dollars that it costs to get that. Drafted on Monday with the case of the Mondays hits different. It's true. Case of the Mondays apparently overcome with Jonathan Taylor fever. Jonathan Taylor still hovering the trade wins for one more day. We'll see if he clears up by tomorrow. That seems like no team wants to give up the capital, the mix of trade capital along with contract capital that you have to get Jonathan Taylor. But I think in this spot with him, seems like he's likely to come back and be a Colt. His best value is probably coming back and doing a better version of what we saw in that RPO game with the Colts in their last preseason game, where guys like Evan Hull, guys like Deion Jackson, clean runs. I got to hold the football. Clean runs right into the end zone. So that is something where Jonathan Taylor, I think his best outcome would probably be to stay on the Colts, play for 1 year, maybe give him some extra money like Jonathan or like Josh Jacobs has gotten, like Saquon Barkley's got him. But it feels like the Colts maybe don't want to back down on that part. We shall see. St. Lucia's nice, but there's no greater joy than hearing your asshole, your asshole say fucking daughter. Your daughter say fucking asshole. That's true. Definitely a fear of the F word coming out of my son any day now. We obviously cannot take another receiver at this point or another running back. We can take receivers, though. I am going to get DJ Moore here. A little bit of a bring back for Bijan Robinson. We will see if we can force Justin Fields back. Would also be happy to take Christian Watson on the way back. Of course, one of my highest exposed players who I've been very happy to see rising in ADP on both DraftKings. And he's actually been steady on Underdog. I think he's still stuck at about a 40 ADP. But Christian Watson, we'll see if we get him. If not, I think getting Justin Fields at this point would feel pretty good, especially with the Week 17 correlation of Bijan Robinson. Boom football. Boom football. We all know it. If you hold the football on a stream, it gives you instant credibility. That's what I'm striving for here. I got tagged in a tweet from our guy, Seth, over the weekend, who was pointing out that I guess Scott Hansen just goes and carries a football around in regular life as well. He posted a video of him in the car holding the football. So gives even more credence to me wanting to be a guy who holds a football all the time. Yeah, I think Justin Fields would be fine here. Hard to imagine I could push Justin Fields all the way back. Christian Watson not correlating with anything, so what are we going to do? A 1-2-1 build. Justin Fields, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, and Lord, oh Lord, are we going to have to go on a run of receivers after starting like this? But do love the Fields Moore combo, as I have said countless times on the stream. A bet on DJ Moore is a bet on Justin Fields. If you are betting on DJ Moore, you are betting on Justin Fields being a league average quarterback, a guy who can throw a football as I am right here. That's something with Justin Fields that I do think these two go hand in hand more than any other player. Some trade rumors as well floating around for Darnell Mooney. Who would trade for Darnell Mooney? I have no idea, but that is something that I saw from the local Chicago reports today. So we'll see. If that's the case, Chase Claypool probably gains in value if Mooney were to somehow get traded. DJ Moore, I think, becomes even more of an obvious number one target guy. And maybe Tyler Scott sees the field a little bit more early on. That's how I would read the tea leaves on that one. I think, if anything, a trade of Mooney would probably mean a pretty big cosign on Tyler Scott or Chase Claypool. And Claypool's been hurt, so I think it would be more a cosign on Tyler Scott. Another boom football from our guy Meatwad. Yummy wide receiver room. Yes, for everybody but me. I have my one wide receiver so far. Everybody else getting some nice picks. Love Donkey Kong getting Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra. Then, of course, he ruins it with Joe Mixon and Najee Harris. I guess you can make the case if you do love running backs, if you're looking for this year's Josh Jacobs. Maybe Joe Mixon and Najee Harris fit that criteria better. For me, though, I think I'd rather have the Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren going to be one of the guys. Again, was going through that best ball hub on fantasylife.com. I think my season, based on the guys I've gotten the best closing line value on, my season goes down on the hands of Jaylen Warren, goes down in the hands of Tank Bigsby, goes somewhat down in the hands of Roshan Johnson, all guys that have moved up enough from where I have ADP, but especially those first two. And on the other side, Michael Pittman's ADP, that's gone the wrong way. Some other ones like that. Pickens actually another guy too who's taken a big rise from where I've gotten him. But we'll see. I'm sure I can review this at some point on stream. Maybe on Friday to close out the Spags Stacks video. Though I think Pete's doing a marathon on Friday too, and I might be doing one of those streams. I don't know. We got to figure out a lot here. It's the home stretch of best ball drafting season, so things will be going by the seat of their pants even more than usual here on Splash Play. My not-so-lighting Tyler Scott bags would love a Mooney trade. I think he's fine either way, like in terms of where you're drafting him, 18th round on Underdog, 20th round on DraftKings. But definitely a player where if you see Mooney clear out, It's honestly kind of a Mims-like opportunity for him where Marvin Mims gets such bigger opportunity because of Tim Patrick going out than Jerry Jeudy being out for some portion of time, though Jerry Jeudy has acted on social media like he's not as hurt as the media is saying, so we'll see. Either way, though, Mims is in line for a starting role, if not a rotational starting role to start the year. But I think for Tyler Scott, like we know we don't have as much faith in the Bears offense as theoretically we will for a Broncos offense with Sean Payton calling the plays. But I think that is a similar opportunity jump for a guy like Tyler Scott. If you do see, potential Mooney getting shifted out, just because Claypool can't stay healthy. And even if Claypool does stay healthy, they're different players. And Tyler Scott has been kind of a pure deep ball guy, both in terms of how he's been used by the Bears and what he showed at Cincinnati. So I think for Tyler Scott, big opportunity for him potentially. Had to get out of ADP chasing and join the boys over here. Yeah, the ADP chasing guys will go forever. I don't know. But I'm committed to my 5 days a week of drafts. And frankly, probably should have done one at night today. But it is what it is. Wanted to get one out here because I was drafting teams this morning on DraftKings, working out, drafted a couple DraftKings teams while doing that. Felt good about it. So I locked into this time here. And tomorrow, of course, we'll be going live after Splash Play with Pete on his channel. Then we'll do the Spags version of Splash Play here right after that on the channel tomorrow. Big media trying to lower Jeudy's ADP. I'll tell you what, if you're willing to scoop up injured guys, I think scooping Jeudy, scooping Terry McLaurin, just being willing to absorb the risk on those guys makes a lot of sense to me at this point of drafts. Just guys have been going so high for 80% of Best Ball Mania, for 75% of DraftKings tournament, that if you get these guys and they do, end up just being less hurt or just being themselves and they come back from injury, I think you're in a really good position. So I'm happy to scoop those ADP drops as we do see Terry McLaurin goes before me. All right, what can we do here? What can we do? Got a little bit of a fall on Jeudy. Lockett would be ahead of ADP. Don't want a running back at this point. I think let's just go get our guys. Let's get George Pickens, and then either we'll get Lockett on the way back, or I could reach a little for JSN for a week 17 correlation, but I think this makes sense. So my team so far, Justin Fields at QB. I don't need to hold the football and wave it at you every single time. It's hard to balance when you should be waving it at someone. Justin Fields at QB, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, two guys who can tote the rock at running back, DJ Moore, George Pickens, two guys who can catch the ball. Receiver. That's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use it to illustrate what I'm talking about for every position here. But I like to start for the team. Definitely unique by my builds. We're not going to get Lockett on the way back, but don't think I have any issue reaching for JSN here. JSN goes too. Never mind. Taylor just wanted the two guys that I wanted, but obviously Seattle stack for him is in place. So that does make sense. Can't be mad at him, even though I'd like to be mad at him. Kind of think Jeudy makes sense to take here for this team, to be willing to absorb the risk, because there are not a lot of Justin Fields, more Jeudy teams, I would think, just because of where their ADPs have been this entire offseason. Would not mind Dobbins in most builds, but I think in this one, that's certainly pushing it. Let's just, I'm going to buy the Jeudy dip. Short Gamer asking, where do you think Jeudy settles? I think, because this pocket here, like you look at these guys, I would take Jeudy above Mike Evans. I would take Jeudy above Gabe Davis, unless I had a bill. So I think this range of the mid 60s is probably where the ADP can fall. But I think I'm pretty comfortable taking him on the way down. As somebody who wasn't a huge Jeudy guy, as I've mentioned, our guy Zane was in the chat before pointing out how he had got me on the Jeudy train. Gee, thanks, Zane. But pointing out, though, that his peripherals were not that different. The advanced analytics, the expected points added per target number is the one that I'm dying on the vine of this year. He and Christian Watson were not that far off. So I think if you're willing to absorb the risk of a guy who has hurt his hamstring in the past, hurting it again, and I'm willing to do that, especially in builds for me for the most part, where this one's a little tough. Judy's my wide receiver 3. I do think the logic of him, there not being a lot of more in fields with Jeudy makes sense for me. For most people, though, if you're drafting, if he's your 4th receiver and he's going to be hurt, even if he's hurt for a month, if you're just going to assume that that month is enough time for him to not have it reoccur again, I'm comfortable taking Jeudy in the 60s. And I think maybe the FUD's a little bit higher on him and it gets the 70s, but I don't think it should. I would just rather have Jeudy above those guys that I just mentioned. Mike Evans in particular, I think, is the cutoff line, the Mendoza line, so to speak. I've leaned into Denver running game based on turmoil in their passing game. Certainly makes sense. As I've talked about, their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, is the guy who single-handedly stunted the growth of Justin Herbert last year, forcing him to hit a lot of checkdowns to the running backs, forcing him to hit a lot of those short throws, as opposed to spreading him downfield as a guy with Herbert's arm that you should kind of approach that way. So definitely for Denver, I think it makes sense to push towards Javonte, to push towards Pirine. But I still think that it probably opens things up a little bit more for Sutton, probably opens things up for Mims, and I think probably makes Greg Dulcich live again as a play. But a guy that I still wouldn't take Greg Dulcich at ADP. I would wait for him to dip a little bit in rooms. But you can get Dulcich in the 180s sometimes. Like, I think that feels pretty good for Dulcich, just given the fact that he should get more opportunity, especially running out of the slot with Jeudy hurt to start the year. Jeudy falls more than the 60s. It depends on the room. I've honestly seen him get taken at ADP. I've seen him go in the 80s on DraftKings. I don't really know where to pinpoint him. Obviously, he's coming down enough, but I took him here at 63. I mean, I would feel that's pretty good. Who's doing the best ball breakfast to ADP, chasing a splash play to Liam and Pete, full Monday media diet. If you're doing that, I'm glad to be a part of it. Shout out to our guy, Brand. Lots of great best ball content as always. I do appreciate everybody who comes to spend time with me here. Of course, if you're new around here, please make sure to subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. I always reply to everything on here. That is one point of pride for me here. But I care a lot about what you guys are doing, and I'm happy to see so many great streams. I was watching Pete's stream, watched ADP chasing. Think they honestly, some of the takes the ADP chasing guys, I know Sam and I have butt heads quite a few times with some of the guys that we disagree with, but it feels like we're getting closer to the middle now. Now that we're locked into the season, I hear them touting some guys that I like, so happy to see that. Pickens, I think, heard Sam speak positively of, which I surprised to hear, but great to hear. Let's see. Got a CMC Pollard Allen start last night in a DK draft, and backstap Gabe, Kincaid, and Knox felt pretty good. I should honestly, I'll read out the DraftKings team I got. And I don't know if reading it out will give you guys the same impact as it would be to see a screenshot, especially an Underdog. But let me see if I can find the team, because there was one that I drafted. Again, a guy took the entire Cowboys roster, including Deuce Vaughn in the 8th. So like, this is a draft that probably should get thrown out, but I don't want it to. So that's where we're going. The team that I got: Anthony Richardson in QB, Bijan Robinson, Damian Pierce, Jalen Waddle, Christian Watson, George Pickens, Mark Andrews, Terry McLaurin, Michael Pittman, Khalil Herbert, A.J. Dillon, Kenny Pickett, Elijah Mitchell, Sam Howell, Damian Harris, Alec Pierce, Irv Smith, Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed, Trey Palmer. I don't know if that's going to light your guys' world on fire as much as it did mine, but all of those guys fell to me at spots that they should not have fallen to. So it ended up really clean with all the guys I love. That was the kind of draft that makes me really feel good about. Yeah, DK is getting wild. Jeudy and McLaurin are falling way too much. Yes, scoop them up on DraftKings. LOL, damn, from Brandon. Yeah, Brandon, I know, has been drafting a lot of DK teams. I can tell you that feels incredibly good. Ben, I think a common concern here, I don't know where to take Jeudy. I think it's just, where do you go? Like, if you have enough receivers to stomach them at a certain ADP, like, that's the main thing I would look at. Miles Sanders, by the way, another guy that falls into the 90s on DraftKings if you're trying to just scoop some different values. We do have the Denver bet, so let's go build it out again. Quentin Johnston. Team so far: Justin Fields, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston. Little thinner receiver room than I normally get, but obviously that's going to happen when you do take 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. Of course, I am a piggy. I have a piggy snout. Look at me. I brought great shame to my family. That said, though, I do like getting some Bijan, Nick Chubb builds down the home stretch if they do align ADP-wise. 2 guys I believe in. Not a lot of running backs out there in that early range that I really believe in. And Bijan and Nick Chubb are definitely one of them, or 2 of them, rather. But let's see what we do with this pick. See one player that makes sense for sure. What is Donkey Kong going to do besides throw barrels at innocent Italian men? Perhaps I will be that innocent Italian man that he throws a barrel at. And he does. I was thinking Cortland Sutton. So we're not going to go that way now. Not a great value for anybody else. I could deepen the bet with Nick Chubb and go Deshaun here. But Deshaun, not going to get Elijah Moore back either. God, this is not my favorite pocket to end up in. Not my favorite pocket at all. I am going to go Elijah Moore here. I think I'll get the Cleveland association here with Nick Chubb to increase that bet slightly, but not going to get Deshaun with it, it looks like, unless he falls. Sometimes he does fall to 106, so maybe we'll get lucky there. But the team so far, again, Justin Fields at QB, Bijan, Nick Chubb at running back, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, and Elijah Moore. Double the more pleasure, more fun for everybody. Small percent of the field is going to get a discounted Jeudy, which is pretty interesting if he smashed in the playoff weeks. That is definitely how I feel about it. Obviously, you know, if I take Jeudy in the 60s, if I take Jeudy in the late 50s, there are going to be people out there that have Jeudy in the 80s. That certainly sucks to be going up against. That said, you know, I kind of wonder if the teams that are taking Jeudy that late are going to be built like mine if I do go a little bit more receiver heavy than I did in this particular draft. So that's a question I think you have to ask. But Jeudy and McLaurin are definitely wild cards out there right now because both guys, tremendous players. I'll read the expected points added stats that I always love so much. Jeudy last year, 0.34 EPA per target. As I used the bell mark there, or the bell curve, Justin Jefferson was 0.33 EPA per target. So that's with a lot of volume. Jeudy's got less volume, but it's performing just as well when he's getting the ball. So that's something to keep in mind with Jerry Jeudy. And then for McLaurin, 0.32 EPA per target, 20% receiving DVOA. So same thing. Both these guys, if they end up being healthy, like they are difference makers every time they touch the ball. The reason I look at EPA stats, I mentioned, but for new people coming in, it's basically saying that this guy, every time he touches the ball, is doing this much more to add potential points to what he's doing with how he's getting targeted, how he's performing after the catch, all that kind of stuff. So point being, if those guys are both difference makers and they've been both getting drafted 20 picks ahead of where they're going right now, I think you have to scoop them up because we're playing for week 17 here. I don't care if I have some low scoring week 1, week 2, week 3, worst case scenario for a guy like Jeudy. Maybe he misses 4 to 6 weeks. We're now about 2 weeks into that almost, or we're going to be almost 2 weeks into that by the time the season starts. So is it worth it for the upside in week 17? I think so. I mean, these guys are both outliers. If they were just nobodies who were just kind of maybe inflated ADP guys, I don't go that way, but I think for where you're drafting right now, if you have these bullets left and these guys fall in your rooms, like I would scoop up Jeudy and McLaurin every single time. But I'm a little more risk willing than some people out there, so I get it. Almost got JSN at 85. Yeah, JSN also falls to the low 90s on DraftKings a little bit sometimes, at least from some of the rooms I did. Again, cramming those in. I have about 25 DraftKings drafts left. So I would recommend just scooping up those guys, Jeudy, McLaurin, JSN. All of them fit the criteria of what I'm looking for. All of them would be guys that I think would look pretty good. We're going to starter sit for week 1. Starter sit Hopkins. Shout out to the super chat, though. I will answer it because it's money. Hopkins or James Conner have Burrow, Bijan, Stevenson, Diggs, Smith, Waller. So you'd be starting, for the flex. I'd probably go Hopkins. I'd go Hopkins, especially if it's full point PPR. I'd go Hopkins. Shout out to the fellas for the super chat, though. Not the usual question we get here, but 'tis the season, guys. 'Tis the season. I also think I pulled up the Drafters banner instead of the Underdog one. Oops. But use that promo code on Drafters, too. Drafters supporting the show. Of course, you can support yourself by playing in their Drafters Million. Probably a good shot of overlay still. I think a very good shot at overlay. So use this promo code. And, of course, same promo code, Underdog Splash. $100 deposit match on both sites if you are new to either Drafters or to Underdog. I don't know who would be new at Underdog at this point, but maybe. There's a shot. Maybe the fellas wants to go deposit on Underdog. I don't always grab the value until it fills a spot I really need. I've been grabbing unstacked Higbee and Everett a lot to fill in as punt teams where they're my tight end one. Higbee and Everett don't do a lot for me. I'd rather get the late tight ends. I mean, it's now kind of been minimized in terms of Musgrave's value. He goes so highly compared to where he was before. The Mayor I would still take. Honestly, Conklin in some builds I would still take. I get Everett, though. Like Everett, I think makes sense in Chargers offense. It should be a lot better. Higbee, I hate the Rams bets that aren't Cooper Kupp. I have a lot of fear about Matthew Stafford. Interesting quote about Matthew Stafford that came out from his wife's podcast, I believe, that he's having a hard time relating to the younger Rams. I don't know what that means, but that doesn't matter. Matt Stafford's spine being graham cracker, I think, is what matters the most for me. And just the fact, too, that Stetson Bennett can probably come in and do 75% of what Matt Stafford can do at this point. You know, he kept the train running on time for Georgia last year. Like, I think that's sort of something that matters to me, that he can probably do the same for the Rams this year, but we shall see. AR goes, that's fine. So does Deshaun Watson. Might have scooped him, but he's gone. 1-2-5-0. No obvious correlations here unless I want to continue to build that Cleveland without Deshaun. But I think it makes more sense to grab a running back here. So I will grab Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, I believe, has flipped Antonio Gibson, but in this draft, Gibson goes ahead of him. So there we go. Happy to take that. So DK Milly going to fill? I don't think so. They still have a couple levers to push with like free credits and stuff and giving out tickets to things. So if they're going to pull that lever, they have to do it within the next few days. But I think they'll probably do their best to fill it, but it looks unlikely. I know Tom Strachan's been tracked down on Twitter. I don't know what his most recent update was, but if you want to go find him on Twitter, check him out and see what he's been posting, because he's tracking in Excel with everything with expected fill rates and all that. And I think the last I checked, DK Milly was off pace, and I think Underdog might have made up the pace here, but they're at 83%-ish in BBM. See what we do. Let's see what we do. All right, we got a 1-3-5-0. Don't really need another running back, but there are a few that make sense here. Jalen Warren's ADP is so high, but he's a discount guy for me, so I could absorb him in. But I need a tight end. I'm going to take David Njoku here. Keep building out Cleveland. Really wish I could have gotten Deshaun, but I think the logic for this one is I'm going into week 17 with Fields and DJ Moore, and I also have the full Cleveland stack besides Amari Cooper. So by fading Deshaun and Cooper, I'm probably fading the chalkiest part of a Cleveland stack and then hoping that Fields and Moore can beat Watson and Cooper. So I think this makes game theory sense from how I'm mathing it out there, but I'm just a guy that knows ball. So I don't, I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. Tom's the man. Tom could stand to talk about Football Outsiders a little bit less. Besides that, great guy who I was happy to bring on last year, and I think he does a great job. And he's definitely been tracking the stuff pretty well, and you can see weekly winners, the thinner bets of Phil without extra push. Thought they weren't sending out tickets because of the backlash last time. If you think that DraftKings gives a shit about backlash, I think you have not been following the company very well. If they are looking like they're actually going to be losing money in the tournament, they'll put entries in. If they're looking like it'll just be like a rake-free tournament, I think they probably would be less inclined to give tickets out because of that backlash. But if they're going to lose money on it, they absolutely will give out tickets and shit just to make sure that it's going towards customer acquisition in some way. Like, they are the least customer-friendly company. And I say that as somebody that proudly has a DraftKings hat that was mailed to me for free last summer, but not so much. Gotta love game theory and ball knowers. It's true. I know you rarely do you find two in the same package like you get here, where I know the game theory, I know the advanced data, and also, again, I know ball, as you saw by me holding up a football. I can't wait to bring this bit to Pete tomorrow. Two things. If I don't do it on the stream with Pete, please remind me. I have to remind him that the Splash Play subs / community / the paying members in particular are known as the Squirt Squad. So that's a thing that Pete does not know yet. We have to remind him of that. And also, I have to hold up this football and swing it around. So please remind me to do both those things tomorrow if I somehow forget. Which slots am I filling for live before lock on Sundays? I'll be doing the deeper dive with Lofty and Ben, it looks like. So I believe they're not saying it publicly. I don't know why. I think they're just going to let it happen quietly. But I believe Alex Osmo is going to not be doing as much content, was the buzz in the street. And deeper dive is one of those shows he's not going to be doing anymore. Squirt Squad, holla to the Squirt Squad. Of course, if you want to join the Squirt Squad, hit that join button down below. You can see influencers like my guy Tyler here has this little helmet next to his name. You can have it too here on the Splash Play channel. If you hit that join button, $4.99 a month. And also down this home stretch here, I'm happy to review as many teams as you want for best ball. Talk DFS in season 2. I'll be using one of the sim products out there. My free agency for the sims, we'll figure it out. We're probably going to play with both Stochastic and run the sims tools and see which one I feel pretty good about. But definitely going to be a fun time for NFL DFS season coming up here. And we'll also see what the Battle Royales do in Underdog. Really think if they want to be smart and aggressive about taking away from DraftKings, I think they boost those prize pools to like 50K. Maybe, that'd be a way to do it. Definitely be a way to do it. Squirt Squad. Njoku going to crush. I do like Njoku. I like him more as a tight end too, but I think as a tight end 1, you can make a bet that he takes a rise. Just always been a huge dude who it feels like could do more with his talent. Let me check the stats because that's one actually I haven't looked up too much about Njoku on. Njoku, 0.25 EPA per target, 11% receiving DVOA this year. Solid. I mean, that's not quite Kittle, not quite Goddard tier, but not that far behind. So Njoku would fit the metrics I look at here. And again, I think Deshaun's going to be better this year. I think this offense overall stands to be better. The defense, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to hold up against some of the NFC North teams on the rise there, as well as the stalwarts like the Bengals and Ravens. I guess I'm just talking about the Steelers in particular. But I do think that division live to score a lot of points, and the Cleveland defense probably not good enough, I think, to hold these teams at bay. So they're probably going to score a good amount. Njoku's been training with UFC fighters, so he's going to smash. Love hate joke? Okay. Or live hate. You shouldn't live with hate. Let's see what we're going to do here. We got a 1-3-5-1. Could use one more running back, but I think really thin at receiver. But I think, honestly, though, at this price, Elijah Mitchell's kind of a smash. So let's see if we can force Darnell Mooney back. I can't imagine there's like a dying market here for Darnell Mooney. So I'm going to round out my running back room. This is a really strong 4 running back room with Bijan, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell. I'm happy with this 4. I don't even think I need to take a 5th at this point. But let's see. See what we get back. Still need another QB. Still have a few options floating around out here that makes sense. One on the board, which I guess I could take over Mooney. All right, Laporta goes with Goff. Taylor Haymaker doing some fun stacking stuff. The way that Taylor Haymaker is approaching these turns is how I like to approach things, where you got 2 Seattle guys, it gets Goff and Laporta. It's a nice opportunity to close out stacks or build stacks when you are picking at the turns. So just something to observe, which actually I'll look at his full team when we finish here. All right. 1-4-5-1 Mooney's here. Russell Wilson's there. Can I push? Man, this is a tough call. I think Russ makes sense here, but Mooney makes slightly more sense, assuming he doesn't get traded, which I think is still unlikely because, again, who's going to trade for Darnell Mooney? Realistically, like, who out there is like, yeah, we need a wide receiver 3 kind of forward type who hasn't really done a whole lot recently. But Mooney was pretty good in Chicago last year relative to his opportunity, so I'm happy to take him here. I'll read the team aloud here. Robinson, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson. A lot of double up of names here. We got double Moores, double Robinsons. Elijah Mitchell rounds out the running back room. At receiver, DJ Moore, George Pickens, discounted Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Elijah Moore, and Darnell Mooney. And then at tight end, we have David Njoku. So we're probably, this might be like a 10 receiver build if we're being honest. But we'll see what we get in the next few picks. You see what Underdog tweeted about, that all dogs go to Miami. Interested to see what that is for. I presume that's them doing their first world championship thing, would be my thought. Based on what I know of the DFS sites, I would think that's what it is. Maybe where Battle Royale winners go, or it's maybe a specific qualifier for a world championship thing. But that was where my brain went at first. This is a terrible mistake made by Cuba here, taking Dawson Knox in 138. For a guy that's been going in the 170s, 180s, 190s, all draft offseason, you're taking him here when you already have an elite tight end in TJ Hawkinson, and also looks like no correlation with Buffalo. Just not a pick you make at 138. You could take him anytime the next 4 rounds, basically. Terrible pick. That's the pick you don't make in August. Just flagging that. No disrespect made by Cuba, but yeah, I wouldn't import that take from Cuba. I'd post a steep tariff on that take. This guy knows ball and tariff talk. Maybe. Week 6 to 10 be my turntable. Are we talking about, which one are we talking about for Ben? Ben is a nurse, so whoever he's talking about, he's got at least as much credibility as the Twitter doctors out there, Twitter physical therapists. Embargo Knox in the 13th. Yes, please don't allow Knox over in the 13th. We simply can't have his communist ideals coming into our country. But yeah, that's a bad move. It's one of those mistakes. I'm trying to highlight them a little bit more here for anybody who's drafting teams in the last minute. A schedule for this week on Splash Play, I mentioned earlier. So tomorrow, a final Best Ball Mania head-to-head with Pete, starting on his channel at 10 a.m. Then we're going to do at least 1 draft, probably 2 here on the Splash Play channel right after that. Wednesday, Drafters Day. Going to hit 2 Drafters drafts on Wednesday. Drafters I talked about. A lot of overlay cooking there. Thursday, my swan song, probably not. Probably have to do a DraftKings draft the week before the season as well. But we'll be hitting DraftKings on Thursday. And then Friday, our conclusion to Spag Stacks. Final 3 teams will be happening. That's all coming up on the channel this week, so stay tuned. Was hoping I could get Kenny Pickett on the way back. He, of course, goes to a team with Deontay Johnson. So, again, at least he went to a good home. Some correlation for him, but we will not be getting Kenny Pickett. This guy also got Jalen Warren, so he's building out a full Pickett stack. And that is our guy, House Mix Play. So, again, double good home for Kenny Pickett. Twitter doctors so last year. There's too many of them now. That's the issue. Like there was the one guy for a while, that the Dr. Stephen Chow guy, I think was his name, who I think also had a lot of holes poked in his resume. And now there's like 20 of them. And it's just physical therapist guys. It's like actual doctors. It's guys in med school. It's like a mix of everything. Nice lane to have, I guess. But hard for a doctor to make diagnoses off of film for the most part. I think they really got to see x-rays, at least from what I know of doctoring. As much as I know about doctoring. Just wait till I get paid. I'll be in the Squirt Squad. Oh, you know what, Ben? You could be our Squirt Squad doctor. We need one. It's honestly, again, you have the credentials of at least the guys on social media, Ben. So come along for the ride. Shout out all the Bens, too. Glad to see this many Bens. I don't know why I said that. But I've always liked Bens. I've never met a Ben where I've been like, this guy sucks. And all different ethnicities, too. I've met black Bens. I've met Jewish Bens. Great Bens out there. Shout out Ben. Shout out all the Bens. Pick coming up here. 1461. I think at this point, I'm just worried about getting boxed out at QB for anybody else. We've lost out on the main guys, so I am just going to take Brock Purdy here. and just stack them up with Elijah Mitchell. Look, not my favorite stack I'll ever build, but boy, everybody who made sense kind of went in this range. Russ would have been nice. Pickett would have been nice. Brock Purdy is a player. And you know what? No threat of Trey Lance anymore. So that's good. Also, gotta say, bad signs in Dallas. Dak's quotes about Trey Lance were not good. The team, so many positive quotes about Will Grier. I feel the worst for Trey Lance than I've felt for any NFL player in a while, where the Niners submarined his trade value, gave him opportunities and ripped it from his hands, didn't really give him a fair shot to win the backup role. Like, they clearly made their decision, I think, through the offseason and wanted Sam Darnold or Brandon Allen to win that role. And now he goes to Dallas, and it feels like the Cowboys don't really want him. And Dak sees him as a direct threat to him getting another big extension. So lots of bad signs for Dallas that I think are already materializing. So we have a 2-4-6-1. Think could use a tight end, but nobody here really makes sense. Just need more receiver talent, but nobody here is really lighting my world on fire in that respect. Let's get Jalen Hyatt here, I guess. Big upside play. Guys don't have a lot of, and we're just trying to get talent in the door at this point. This is a Monday draft. This draft is a case of the Mondays. Absolutely. Trey Lance has just been going through it. Oh, yeah, bad scene for we always hate to hear bad news for the fantasy flock. But yes, I think that I feel really bad for Trey Lance. That's the main thing. Like, you could say whatever you want. Like, maybe you should never draft a guy top 5 who didn't play in a Power 5 conference. I think that's completely fair. Honestly, that's something that we've talked about all the rookies that I look at this entire offseason, and any guy who was in the SEC, any guy who was in the Big 12, the Big 10, anybody who's in even the Pac-12, you give those guys a certain amount of credibility to what they're doing. If you're playing North Dakota State, like, yeah, sure, maybe you can break out. Maybe you can beat Christian Watson and be great at a skill position. But as a QB, it's just hard to take those numbers at face value. And even at a skill position, it's like you got to look great on paper, and also you have to look great with the athletic profile and testing. And I think then maybe you could take a leap of faith on those guys. But if I were an NFL team, I would have a really hard time. And I'm not like you guys know from watching the stream, even though I'm holding this football up and I know ball, I'm not like a panicky Pete about this stuff, not to be mean to all Pete's out there and accuse them of panicking. But like, I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it again. Like Malik Willis, obviously he fell, but like Malik Willis, Trey Lance, that's two recent noteworthy ones that just did not even get close to where they need to be. And the way you get where you need to be is by playing and being out there and getting the reps over and over and over again. And Trey Lance didn't get that opportunity. So I don't think you see a guy go that highly again with a Trey Lance background. I agree it's not over, but he has to play somewhere. If he doesn't play, if he keeps moving from backup to backup, like a great destination for him would have been the Bucks. The Bucks just are fucking morons. Like the Bucks are a very poorly run team, I think. But the Cardinals, I think would have been maybe interesting because he could give him some run, like trade for him instead of Josh Dobbs. I don't know. There are better outcomes for him. Dallas isn't it. Like he's probably not even going to be on the depth chart. Have Cooper Rush. Like how does he develop? He develops by playing scout team, I think is what the speculation is, which is not how you develop a QB. It's just sad. It's just sad. If you're going to take a guy in top 5, play him. Like play him from day one. Anthony Richardson's going to be the test case for it. There might be some ugly results. Might be some more 6 for 17 games for AR. I don't think so, but there might be. But if that's the case, like by the time you get to year 2, he at least has real reps, has played live bullets against real teams for 17 games, 18 games. Like, he somehow makes the playoffs, which not likely, but maybe. McCarthy's allegedly a QB developer. May not hurt to have some time there. Allegedly. Lance the tight end. Honestly, wouldn't be the worst thing if he had a Taysom renaissance. He was great, like an outlier as a rusher in his QB stats, I know, from what I pulled. So, but obviously you're not drafting guys for that. That's like the worst case outcome is you have to pivot your career. Like Malik Cunningham is not even getting the opportunity he probably deserves as a New England guy. And he was a much better, I think, player. Like he played against real teams in college as opposed to Trey Lance. This is not me bashing Trey Lance. I was on that train last year, but I was on that train in the hopes that he would, get a full runway to start, and then he gets hurt. And it's like that mix of bad luck and bad timing. And that kills NFL careers. Like so much of it is right time, right place, right development, right coach. That's why the AR bags are heavy and the Trey Lance bags this year were basically. See what we're going to do with our next couple picks. We have this 2-4-7-1 build with Fields, Purdy, Bijan, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Jalen Hyatt. Would like to pick up some micro correlations here, but we are now in some pretty gross pockets of players for me. Rondale slipping. Does that do anything? Does that do anything for me in general? You know what? I think I see something fun we can do. Let's take Taysom here as tight end 2. I've been tacking on a lot of Taysom lately, I have to admit. I don't know why. It's just he's falling in rooms to palatable ADPs. And I think in part of a 3 tight end build, he makes sense. So we'll take Taysom here. And I think maybe get some late New Orleans, Tampa Bay stuff. And I think that'll be it. Nice team. Thank you. Thank you. This is not my most comfortable build. Anytime I take 2 running backs early, I do feel like the teams are not my preferred build, but got so many bullets left. And I did want to get at least one Bijan-Chubb in the mix because I did not grab enough of that early on. Kyler starting on pup list. Kyler drafters panicking. Good news, Kyler drafters. You're going to get 3 weeks of mediocre play for him to prove that he's healthy so that the Cardinals have the optionality to keep him or trade him. And after that, you're going to see him go right back on the sidelines because he is not, they're not going to risk hurting him, guys. They're not going to risk hurting him. I think that Curtis Samuel makes sense here for the bet on Washington. I think that Taysom Hill makes sense. Do I want to share of Curtis Samuel right now? Or Rashid Shaheed, I think, can also look pretty good in this build. I'll take Curtis Samuel. I would normally take Rashid Shaheed here, but I think Samuel with the pseudo-Niner stack here makes sense. So the team so far, Justin Fields, Brock Purdy, Bijan, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell, a running back. Very sturdy running back room. A receiver, we're throwing darts. DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnson, that's good. After there, falls to shit with Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Hyatt, and Curtis Samuel. And then a tight end, David Njoku and Taysom Hill. So nothing of issue there. I think I know what I want my last 2 picks to be, but I'm not going to say them out loud because I don't want anybody to get any bright ideas out there. But what if those are the 3 weeks you need? It's true. That's Kyler Murray is going to put up 40 fantasy points for 3 weeks. That's actually an interesting game theory question too. Like, is it worth it to have Kyler if he comes in and plays lights out for 3 weeks and props up your position during some delicate bye week periods, but then he gets pulled right away and doesn't play in week 17, let alone 15 and 16? That's an interesting question. I would draft them as part of a 3Q build if I knew that. Like if you knew for sure that was going to happen, especially with where he's going now. But I think the issue is like he's going to come back in. There's going to be a ramp up period. Again, guys after age 25, it's just not the recovery time and speed and full efficacy that you want to see. And I think then it's like, okay, we proved he's healthy and that's enough. I don't think we have to prove that he's great. We have to prove that he's healthy. So I think that's tough, man. But if he can give you the ceiling for those 3 to 4 weeks, draft him, I guess. His bye week means he's out on 15 to 17. So what's Kyler's bye? Let's look. I missed that from him being drafted. So Kyler's bye week 14. Oh, good point. Because my whole assumption has been that he comes back week 8 or 9. I think that's enough time for him to not only get healthy, but also pick up the new offense he's going to have to learn. Offensive coordinator coming over from Seattle. So that's something that I think certainly going to be a change for him from whatever Cliff Kingsbury bullshit he was doing last year. So I think we're basically saying then Kyler needs to be going by week 8, and the team needs to be like 4-4 by that point for you to get a full run for him. And even then, I think you're asking a lot for the Cardinals to be 4-4 if Kyler gets out there in week 8 or week 9. Worried Michael Wilson is a bad play and Colt won't be able to reach him. Good news. It won't be Colt McCoy. It's going to be Josh Dobbs out there, I think. And Josh Dobbs. So basically Colt McCoy looks so bad and Clayton too, not ready enough that they traded for Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs couldn't beat out Dorian Thompson-Robinson and might have been behind Kellen Mond in that Browns depth chart. So it's ugly, man. It's ugly for Arizona. Michael Wilson also was like not great in college. Like he didn't do anything. Like he was just out there and he's got a role. Like he and Mingo are kind of the same where Mingo's looking a little better. Mingo looks, you look at him, he looks like AJ Brown, like he passes that test. Michael Wilson has even less results than Mingo and doesn't look like AJ Brown, but he's just going to be out there because they're a tanking team. They're a tanking team that's trying to make it look like they're not tanking. It's Titans legend Josh Dobbs, who was able to beat out Malik Willis and not much else. All this means is Connor to the moon. Yes, I agree with that. Bad running backs perform better on bad teams than receivers do. Or I guess running backs. I shouldn't say he's a bad running back. Running backs perform better on bad teams than receivers do. But still, a lot more checkdowns, stuff like that. But I think the risk for Connor is just that he doesn't play at the end of the year too, because like he's 30, right? He's like a legit 30 with a history of injuries. So it's tough. Like there's some potential in Arizona. Like it's thin. It's a very narrow needle to thread. All right. 2 picks left. I see one of my tight ends being Cade Otton here. We have the New Orleans correlation. We have, I think, a Tampa Bay receiver we could take to top it off. So the team heading into the 18th, Justin Fields and Brock Purdy, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell, DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Hyatt, Curtis Samuel. What a roll call. And then a tight end, David Njoku, Taysom Hill, and Cade Otton. So Taysom Hill's going to have to carry us in week 5, and that's fine. Connor is 28. All right, fair enough. Still, though, like a guy you maybe don't play if you have nothing to go at the end. But I still think he's the kind of guy that I can't imagine wanting to sit out, especially because he'll probably be playing for his next contract this year. But we'll see. I think there's still a world. Like there's a world where if you're trying to do Philadelphia bringbacks for week 17, you take AJ Brown, you take your Philly guys, whatever, and then you take Michael Wilson, you take Keontae Ingram. But like on Underdog, I wouldn't even take Keontae as an 18th rounder. On DraftKings, you could talk into taking Keontae as a 20th. All right, so we're going to take, again, a fun play here. Guy that I think makes a lot of sense at the end of these kind of builds where you have some New Orleans. Trey Palmer going for free. A nice game for him over the weekend. Didn't play all the snaps in the world, but had 2 good catches. One was a really good catch for Trey Palmer. So my final team, I'll read it aloud here. We are just going to do one draft today, but I'll share my exposures because I forgot to do that on Friday. Justin Fields, Brock Purdy at QB, Bijan Robinson, Nick Chubb, Brian Robinson, Elijah Mitchell at running back. Receiver, a roll call of 9 men. DJ Moore, George Pickens, Jerry Jeudy, Quentin Johnston, Elijah Moore, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Hyatt, Curtis Samuel, and the upstart Trey Palmer. And then a tight end, David Njoku, Taysom Hill, Cade Otton. That's the team so far. Going to check my exposures now, but I will ask to pander one more time. Please subscribe down below. Please hit the like button. Please leave a comment if you're watching after the fact. All that helps this ecosystem we're trying to build here of guys who know ball. So please subscribe down below, hit the like button. And of course, if you haven't deposited on Underdog, use that promo code SPLASH. If you haven't deposited on Drafters, use that promo code SPLASH on Drafters. 17 weeks there, no playoffs, just straight scores. Just straight scores on Drafters. Let's look at my exposures. I don't think we care too much about what those guys are doing. All right. And we'll do one, at least not one final review, but maybe one semi-final review on Friday after Spags stacks. All right, so my overall top 5 in just BBM, Christian Watson, number 1 at 30%. Jalen Warren, my closing line value hero at 28%. Kendre Miller, who is the opposite. He has gone downward, but I still feel good about the bet. 26% Kendre Miller, 25% Roschon Johnson. Again, a bet we've been making since January. That's where you're getting here. Michael Pittman, number 5 at 24%, so he has come down. QB, number 1, still Anthony Richardson at 21%. Number 2, Kenny Pickett at 15, rounded down. Number 3, Jordan Love at 15, rounded up. Deshaun Watson, number 4 at 11, and number 5, Kirk Cousins at 11%. And week 1 Strouder, CJ Stroud, who had an awful preseason. He is just outside the top 5. Running back, Jalen Warren again, 28%, Kendre, 26%, Roschon, 25%. Devin Singletary, one of the takes I would still like to have back, but I think is okay, but I would like to have it back. 22% Devin Singletary and 21% Zach Charbonnet, rounding out my running back room top 5. Receivers, Christian Watson, Michael Pittman, number 2 at 24%. George Pickens, going to get to my 25% on him. He's at 23.5. DK Metcalf at 22. And then the drop-off, Amari Cooper at 17. So I'm flatter than I realized at receiver, but big stands. These are my big stands. So if you want to tail big stands, go for it. Tight end exposures in BBM. Michael Mayer, number 1 at 15. Sam Laporta, rounded up 15. Mark Andrews, number 3 at 14. Luke Musgrave, drafted him all offseason when he was going undrafted at 14. And Irv Smith tied with Dalton Kincaid. And Jelani Woods vestigially hanging on, even though you should take Kylan Granson over Jelani Woods at this point. Let's see. Devin Singletary. Yep. It's pretty tough. Pretty tough. Either way, guys, thank you guys for hanging out here. This is a quick one today, but Mondays, we get into the shape of things. Tomorrow will be a little more fun. 10 a.m. tomorrow with Pete, then a double stream here on the Splash Play channel. Then I have a draft with Ian Hart. It's on the Fantasy Life channel, which I would really appreciate you guys coming to check out there. If we can bump some views for the Fantasy Life streams, probably would bode well for your pal Spag. So check all that stuff out. Of course, make sure to subscribe before you go. Hit the like button, leave a comment, all that stuff. I appreciate the support a bunch. Let's go to the little version of this. But thanks for hanging out, guys. Good luck in your drafts. Get them in. 10 days left. 9 tomorrow. And I'll see you guys again here very soon. Enjoy your days and come back tomorrow, 10 a.m. with me on Peach Channel. See you guys then. Good luck. Bye. No ball.